Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to give you guys my review of all the Kobold cards that we've seen so far. We had a decently sized batch of cards revealed to us yesterday, and I wanted to do a bit more justice now that we have a better idea about what's going on in the upcoming Kobolds and Catacombs expansion, to relay the cards that I had a fairly rough review upon my first look at BlizzCon. So let's kick it off with the original cards that they revealed. So I'm going to go quickly through these. You guys have certainly seen some of these if you're a fan of Hearthstone. So the Jasper Spellstone eventually deals, I think it's 6 or 8 damage. I don't know. Anyway, it does enough damage to kill one thing. I think it's 6. And the idea is that you have to gain armor and then upgrades, but you can't gain like a whole bunch of armor at once and go through different stages. You need to gain armor, and if you gain like 5 armor, it'll count for whatever's remaining on the first stage. So it's a bit clunky. It is a very nice card that could potentially serve a very control-oriented druid. So if you think about it, it's kind of like a shield slam that you just build up. You don't need the requirement for. So it's pretty decent in that end, but control warrior plays very differently than druid right now. But if that changes, this might be all right. The Sapphire Spellstone is a very interesting one. It's a 7-mana Shaman card that copies a friendly minion, and when you overload 3 and it's sitting in your hand like the other Spellstones, it copies an extra minion up to 3. The Greater Spellstone is 7 mana, summon a copy of a friendly minion 3 times. So you quadruple a guy in play, and if that guy is the box that you guys will see, the cube, that might be pretty good. There's certainly a lot of extreme combos with this, but any card that costs north of 6 mana is one you have to be very skeptical of, and obviously I'm very skeptical of this as a result. Guild Recruiter, so recruit, just pull something from your deck that meets the requirement. Overall, the power level is very low, some combo potential, but looks pretty weak. Rin, so the Warlock legendary, each class is getting a legendary that's a weapon and a legendary that's not a weapon. This is the non-weapon Warlock legendary. It's a 6 mana for a 3/6 taunt, so out of the gate it's garbage. For those stats you need at least 5 mana, if not 4 these days. So the Death Rattle, so when this dies you get the first seal, and this is a 5 mana spell that spawns a 2/2, then a 3/3, then a 4/4, then a 5/5, and then after that one you get a 10 mana card. I think it's like an 8/8 or something. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Basically when you play it you delete your opponent's deck. That's a pretty good card. I think that alone will probably see play. It's a 10 mana card that doesn't really do anything right away. Yeah, this looks really low on the power level, but who knows. Oh man, the cube. Carnivorous Cube. 5 cost 4/6 is decent in stats, and when you play it, you destroy a friendly minion, but when it dies, you summon 2 copies of it. So instantly, any kind of Death Rattle trigger card is going to be ridiculous. There's the Play Dead card for Hunter. It's a 6 mana combo. There's a 9 mana combo for any class using the... Oh man, I did a card reveal on the card. I should probably know what it's called, but I don't. It's a 4 mana 3/4 from Ungaro, and it causes the Death Rattles to be triggered upon play. Now, I think it'll work with a card like this because battle cries typically happen before the card enters play, and then once it actually enters play, the on-play effects trigger. So I think it'll actually work, but even if it doesn't, it'll be a fantastic card. Carnivorous Cube is certainly the card to watch out for from what we've seen so far. Some Paladin garbage. You're going to see some more Silverhand Recruit synergy, but this card's power level is abysmal. Kobold Illusionist, 4 cost 3/3, and you summon a 1/1 copy of a minion in your hand when it dies. That certainly has some value, but it's a completely different type of rogue deck that we have yet to realize. In terms of arena play, we'll probably see a decent number of these, and it'll be on a pretty low power level because a 4 mana 3/3 will typically die to just about every other 4-drop. The 1/1 might catch you up, but it might not. Wandering Monster. Secret. When an enemy attacks your hero, you summon a 3-cost minion as the new target. So, in my opinion, this is generally going to be better than Bear Trap. And now we actually have more synergies for secrets. The downside of that is the game is, higher power level cards than when we had Bear Trap. But I think it might see some play. Hunter's typically all over the place, and then it finds some kind of like aggro or like hybrid aggro list. And I can see this maybe making that. Who knows? It's a pretty decent arena card though. Alineth. So every class is going to get a weapon, and this is the Mage Weapon. So this is a weapon that can't actually attack unless you buff it. It doesn't reduce durability, it just uses that ability at the end of every turn. So it's 6 mana, 0/3. At the end of your turn, draw 3 cards. So if you compare this to typical card draw mechanics, like Nourish draws you 3, it does more than that, so maybe that's not a fair one. To draw 3, you typically want to pay about 4.5 mana. So if you get 2 triggers of this, it is worth it. Some people think this card is actually totally broken because if you play a Tempo Mage and you're always drawing cards when you typically run out of minions to play, you're just pulling burn from your deck every single turn and you become unstoppable at that stage. And that's probably true. This card is probably really good, but we'll have to see how common weapon removal will be, because if you're playing Tempo Mage and you use this to draw 3 and then it gets oozed because everyone might actually be running ooze, well, it's suddenly not so good anymore. So yes, a lot of these weapons are very powerful. A lot of them blow, but a lot of them are really powerful. So if we see the ooze meta, we might not see a hell of a lot of play from these cards. These cards are pretty cool, but I wouldn't get too excited about crafting them. Be careful, guys. When this expansion comes out, some of these weapons might seem totally broken, but then like 3 days later, everyone might have, 4 weapon removals in every single deck that they play. And then these weapons are going to seem not very good anymore. So we'll see if there's some kind of adjustment they're going to make to that to counter the weapon removal. But until we see that, be careful crafting these cards. Undefined Elixir. So this is kind of a new mechanic. So when you draw this, it just randomly gets a bonus. And the bonuses vary from card to card. In this case, I think you can get Lifesteal. Death Rattle like puts it back into play with 1 health or something. There's one that puts a 1/1 copy. So if you have like a 4/4 minion with an effect, you can play this on it, make it into a 6/6. And then you get a 1/1 copy of that. So that can be really good. The random effect of this might make it a bit of a weak card in terms of constructed, but in Arena, this card is going to be ridiculous. The reason is any kind of health buffing anything is crazy for Priest Tempo. So like, Priest goes first, 2-drop, opponent, 2-drop, buff your 2-drop plus an extra effect, crush your opponent's 2-drop, heal it next turn. The game is just solidified in the Priest's favor. So this card's going to be very good in Arena. Very, very good. But we'll have to see for Constructed. Gather your party. Recruit a minion. So it's pretty tough to play a warrior with like very few minions, but this card is going to probably see that happen. If you're running something like, Grommash and like Leroy or something, there's possibly some pretty interesting combos you can pull off, along with a few others perhaps. So certainly some potential, and in my opinion, at least for me, it's going to be one of the more exciting cards of the set, because it is one of those deck-defining, potentially game-breaking cards that you really have to explore. So good stuff. Crushing Walls, 7-cost Hunter removal. That's right, it costs 7. Destroys your opponent's left and rightmost minions. Man, the meta would have to be something completely unimaginable to see this card actually relevant in C play, but that would be cool. Just 7 mana removal, oh boy. Meteor was hardly good enough to see any constructed play, just keep that in mind. Dragon Soul is the Priest weapon, so it's a 3-cost weapon. It's very nice, very cheap. But the trigger is after you cast 3 spells in a turn, summon a 5/5 dragon. So if you're casting a lot of spells just naturally, this card is pretty good. If on any given turn you have like a 1 in 3 probability to cast 3 spells, this card's awesome. If you get 1 dragon, this card is worth it. But again, if your opponent is running weapon removal, and a lot of people might be running weapon removal, this card's going to blow. So the cards that they revealed today, we have the Feral Gibberer, 1 cost 1/1. When it attacks a hero, add a copy of it to your hand. So it's basically pretty terrible. Sudden Betrayal. This is a card that got some people thinking, Rogue is going to get some secrets, and this is not the only secret. I believe they said in the stream that there's going to be 3 Rogue secrets that have different type of interactions. I kind of like some of the overlap secrets as well, but understandably, they don't want to just dish out, more than a handful of secrets in any expansion. But they seem to indicate that Rogue secrets is not going to be a thing that's going to be moving forward. It's just for this card, for this expansion set for now. So, Sudden Betrayal. When a minion attacks your hero, instead it attacks one of its neighbors. On the power level, this is generally pretty weak. Basically, if you have any kind of small minion, you put it next to your big minion attacks your small minion, and it's kind of like a mirror entity, I guess. The fact that it gives you extra health might be pretty relevant, though. It's probably better than Mirror Entity for 2. So, yeah, actually, maybe I can see that. It's a card that's going to crush decks that have only big minions in Arena, but fortunately, those don't really exist. Cheat Death. Another Rogue secret. When a friendly minion dies, return to your hand for 2 less. So it's basically a fairly unreliable, pretty crappy version of Shadow Step. But Shadow Step is pretty decent. The main issue with Shadow Step is it doesn't offer any value, but this does. It offers value at the cost of tempo. Is that good? Yeah, that might be pretty good, actually. I think this is a pretty decent arena card. Nothing game-breaking, but it's pretty decent. In Constructed, though, it might be fairly inconsistent, so I'd wait and see. This card's got a lot of people talking. The new dragon, the Priest Dragon. 4 mana, 3/3, obviously garbage stats, but if you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage to all other minions. Now here's the thing about board clears. Even the absolute worst, shittiest board clears you could ever imagine that we've seen so far in the game have seen some play in some format with decent success. So is this card good? This card's great. It's great. Absolutely going to see play. Priest might just run like 3 or 4 dragons just to play this card. You have to keep in mind, priests are so desperate for board clears, they play Auchenai Circle just to have a board clear on 4. Why wouldn't you rather play this? It's just as inconsistent, except you don't have to use 2 cards. You can just use 1, and your other card might win you the game later. So this card is obviously amazing. Oh boy. So, Shaman Weapon. 8 cost 3/3 weapon. After your hero attacks, discover a spell and cast it with a random target. So they were saying how a lot of Shaman spells don't actually have targets. I'm not so sure about that. But it's true that the random spell generation, when it doesn't have a target, like if it's a board clear, like if it's a card draw effect, like if it's a mass board clear, sometimes if it's a minion targeting effect and you don't have any minions and you can sometimes control that, that's pretty good. And Shaman certainly has a lot of those. Here's where this card fails. If anyone ever had the slightest idea to run any weapon removal, this card is straight up dead. You cannot play an 8 mana weapon that might get oozed and likely doesn't have that big of an impact the turn you play. You just can't. This card costs way too much. I think if this card costs 6 mana, I would be as disappointed, which I think proves that it just costs too much. Maybe there's something I'm missing, and certainly we were missing that X factor with cards like Yogg, but man, this looks really bad. Branching Paths. This is a really interesting Druid card. So it costs 4 and you choose twice to draw a card, give your minions +1 attack, gain 6 armor. You can choose the same thing twice. So this could be 4 mana, gain 12 armor, which alone is actually a pretty good card. It could also be a fairly worse Savage Roar, but it's a permanent buff, plus 2 attack to all your minions. You can draw 2 cards for 4, which again is slightly worse than that. But the flexibility, combination, and the fact that Druid usually just needs the right answer on 1 or 2 turns to set up a situation where they solidify the game, this card looks scary good. Yeah, I have to think that this card is going to see some play, so get ready for it. Level up, give your Silver Hand recruits +2/+2 on Taunt. Now, Taunt is sometimes pretty relevant. If there's a lot of aggro decks out there, it's certainly going to be a pretty good card. But, you have to compare this to old cards like Quartermaster, and Quartermaster wasn't that broken. It was pretty good, but it wasn't, super broken. And that was a time where people were playing cards that were worse than they were today. And that was a time where people had Muster for Battle, which was probably one of those broken cards in the entire game that synergized with Quartermaster. Yet, as a whole, the Quartermaster combo, Quartermuster combo wasn't considered that overpowered. So, yeah, I have my doubts about this card, but who knows? If it's aggro meta, should be good. And the last card I have for you guys, actually I think the second last, Katharina Wintergrasp. Battlecry and Death Rattle, recruit a beast. So you just put some big beasts in your deck, and it should be pretty good, but it costs 8, so Hunter, 8 mana, Control Hunter, yeah, we've been there before, and it hasn't worked out. And the last one, Lesser Mithril Spellstone. Summon 1, 5/5, and if you equip a weapon, then 2, and then 3 for 7. Is that good? Nah, it's pretty whatever. Overall, pretty cool cards. I hope they do have some counterplay to the weapon mechanics so we could actually play some of these legendary weapons. I would like that very much. But for now, we have to wait and see. We have a lot of synergy cards without that second piece. So we'll see. Let me know what you think. Hope you guys enjoyed my review, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.